And finally, I have some good news after Jets weekend. And I know, I've sounded like a broken record the first 4 weeks of the season about how this team has looked. I get all that. And look, I have been incredibly hard on Adam Gase, as I think a lot of Jet fans were. Now, I'm not completely going to do a 180 on Adam Gase, but what I have said and what's been a common theme of my criticism of Gase was this. I said the big thing for Adam Gase this year might not even be the wins and losses. I've said the biggest thing is, how does Sam Darnold look as his quarterback? If Sam Darnold looks good and looks like a franchise quarterback, that's going to determine how his tenure with the New York Jets is going to go. And he needed that win against the Dallas Cowboys because this was an impressive victory, not only because the Jets beat a good team, beat a team that's roster, I would say, is better than theirs, but more importantly, they beat him with their franchise quarterback. And now we can stop saying, tank for Tua. I kept hearing that from some Jet fans, and that was driving me crazy. I'm like, you do get they have Sam Darnold. He's a pretty good quarterback, right? And just to put this in perspective, he couldn't be around this team. He hasn't played in a couple weeks. He's just getting back into the swing of things. And oh, by the way, there were extra padding against the Cowboys to protect his enlarged spleen. And despite all that, oh boy, you came out of that game as a Jet fan, you said, we got a quarterback. I felt that way last season, but you looked at the way Sam Darnold put that team on his back, because it's not just that the Jets were a bad team without him. They were abysmal. They weren't even an NFL team. They were an NFL offense. In one play yesterday, Sam Darnold threw a 92-yard bomb to Robbie Anderson. The Jets over the previous two games weren't even getting 70 yards in a game of passing. And then they played Dallas, who's got a very good defense and especially a great pass rush. Not only did Sam Darnold play great, he made that offensive line better. He made those receivers better. You hear it from the players in that locker room that he's a special guy. And it takes a special guy to play quarterback, not just to be good, but to make others around you better. And we see the impact that Sam Darnold has had. Now, look, I'm not saying all of a sudden the Jets are going to make the playoffs. I'm not saying the Jets that this isn't a lost season because of his injury earlier, but you now, after just one win, as a Jet fan, you're excited to see the rest of the season because you want to see him continue to develop. Because you look, that offensive line is not a great offensive line. He made them better. He made the receivers better yesterday. And look, I understand he made a bad throw. He threw an interception in the red zone, and I get that that was a crucial point of the game. But that was his first interception since week 14 last year. And despite not being around the team, having mono, having extra padding, he looked great yesterday. And you walked away as a Jet fan saying, they have a quarterback. I mean, you saw it yesterday. Dak Prescott is trying to get $40 million a year. But if I was to ask you who was the better quarterback on the field in that game, you would have said Sam Darnold. He's a special player, and the good news for him is he's only going to get healthier, and he gets Chris Herndon back. And look, the Jets, it's going to be tough. But when I did my season preview, I said this first 7 weeks, it was going to be a gauntlet. But the good news is the gauntlet's almost over. After the New England game, I was looking at the Jets' schedule. Outside of playing Baltimore in Week 16 and at Buffalo Week 17, the Jets' schedule looks pretty darn good. They get the Redskins and their dysfunctional quarterback mess. They get the Giants and rookie Daniel Jones. They get the Dolphins twice. They get Cincinnati. They get Pittsburgh without a quarterback. I mean, the Jets' schedule all of a sudden, if they could somehow pull off an upset against New England, and look, stranger things have happened as we've seen with a lot of the upsets. I mean, the Jets, they'll be 2-4, and you look over the last 10 games of the schedule, could they go 6-4? You know, play 500 football, maybe get an extra win, go 8-8, 9-7. It's not out of the realm of possibility, especially if Darnold's on the field. And look, Darnold to me doesn't have great weapons. He doesn't have a great offensive line. So what he's been able to overcome and how well he was able to play yesterday is truly a testament of how good he is. If they can get another big weapon on the outside, improve this offensive line, get Chris Herndon back, this could be a scary offense in the near future. It's still got ways to go. This is a team that is building forward. But you came out of that game yesterday saying, it's good to have Sam back, but more importantly, we got a pretty good quarterback. Now, there were things I didn't love about yesterday with Adam Gase, and I know a lot of you are saying, oh, I'm just picking on Adam Gase, but there was one thing that really did irk me in the game, which was how close it was when the Jets had a 21-3 lead. Before going into the half, they kicked that long field goal, it was 21-6. But the Jets defense made big stops, they bended, didn't break. And I just remember the Jets offense, especially later in the game, got ultra conservative. And I remember that last drive before the Dallas drive that got them to 22 points and they couldn't convert on the 2-point conversion. Look, I give this Jet offense and Darnold a lot of respect for after the interception coming right back out, getting a field goal late in the game. But at that point, I think I shared the mindset with a lot of Jet fans, put the game away. They had the sequence where they had the 2 runs, they got the short pass. I said, look, take a shot at the end zone. Really put this game away. Don't let the Cowboys have a shot. Look, the Cowboys had a shot, and this is something that Gase is going to have to learn, is how to finish games. Because we saw in the Buffalo game, the Jets had control of that game into the second half. Once again against Dallas, this game shouldn't have been close at the end of the game. And I give the Jets credit for holding on, but they need to learn how to finish. And I understand this is a young team, so we're going to see lapses like this. But for Adam Gase, if I had to give a big criticism, it was this team needs to learn how to finish. Because look, they're not a great team. They're a very good team. I think they have talent, but they need to finish games strong. Because this is a team where you can't give away mistakes. I don't think they're talented enough to overcome it. I do think with Sam Darnold back under center, they're a respectable team, but this isn't one of the elite teams in the NFL that can make a bunch of mistakes and overcome it. This is a team, they have to play exceptionally well in mistake-free football. And look, I know Darnold threw a big interception, but that was a chance for the Jets. I would like to see them be more aggressive, try to just finish the game off. But once again, they come out with a big win. And I've said this, and I know I've been as critical of Gase as anyone. I will give him credit. They did look very good on offense. And I've been saying, this is going to come down to how good does Sam Darnold look with him. And if Sam Darnold continues to play like this under Adam Gase, Gase is still going to have a job. Another interesting note about this game actually came a little bit after the game, maybe during it. I can't remember the exact timing. But I did see this was a report from Adam Schefter that Leonard Williams is garnering a lot of trade attention on the market and that there are a couple teams that are interested. And look, when Adam Schefter has a source, it's as accurate as anyone in the NFL. And to me, this isn't a bad idea. The first thing is this. Quinnen Williams looked very good yesterday. And did you notice why? It was because he was playing defensive end, which I feel is a better fit for him. It allows him to get more space, use his speed, and with the injury to Henry Anderson, he played in that role and played very well. I thought he had his best game as a Jet yesterday. But here's the biggest reason, it's money. The Jets, of all the places they need to invest money, to me the defensive line isn't one of them. If you're going to invest money with this team, it would be offensive line, edge rusher, and corner. They already have Henry Anderson and Quinnen Williams under contract. It doesn't make sense to put all this money into Leonard Williams, and the Jets already have a cautionary tale, and that's Muhammad Wilkerson. Muhammad Wilkerson was a better player than Leonard Williams was. And the Jets gave him a lot of money, and it didn't work out. It was a disaster, and I don't think the Jets want to go down that road. And plus, Leonard Williams is a good guy, but when you hear from people that I've talked to in the organization, they're not exactly sold on him. He's not a guy like Jamal Adams, who it's all business. He's nose of the grindstone. He is fully committed. And I'm not saying that Leonard Williams isn't committed, but he's not of that mindset like a Jamal Adams, a guy that lives and breathes football. And look, Leonard Williams is a good player, but when he's the 6th overall pick in the draft, and when many people thought he was the best defensive prospect, it's been a bit of a letdown. And the Jets have 2 great examples of what happens when you release a talented defensive guy on the defensive line, and also what happens when you pay him. We saw the situation unfold with Muhammad Wilkerson. They gave him the long-term contract, and he was not the player the Jets expected. He got the contract, and it didn't work out. But they also had Sheldon Richardson. Don't forget, he was the defensive rookie of the year. And he has bounced around a couple of different organizations. He's bounced around with the Vikings. He's bounced around now with the Browns. So the Jets, even though they lost a talented player, it really hasn't come back to haunt them. And a lot of Jet fans, when I mention Shola Richardson, are like, oh yeah, he used to play for us, right? Under Rex Ryan, defensive rookie of the year. So for the Jets, there's a lot of premiums I would pay in the NFL, but a defensive lineman that isn't an edge rusher is not one of them. And if you can get good value, because don't forget, the Texans got good value for Jadeveon Clowney. I think Jadeveon Clowney is a lot better player than Leonard Williams. But they got a third-round pick and 2 decent players back for him. If the Jets could get a lower-end pass rusher, a good offensive lineman with a mid-round pick, I'd do it. Because I don't want to invest all that money in Leonard Williams. And once again yesterday, I was watching the game and it didn't feel like he made much of an impact. And if he's getting trade value, I would look into it. Because I'll say this, Quinnen Williams has his best game. I think he's a better defensive end. He would fit right into where Leonard Williams plays. You look at, they already have a contract to Henry Anderson. He's locked up long term. And in this league, interior defensive linemen outside of maybe Aaron Donald, they don't make as much of an impact on the game as a true edge rusher or a corner. So that is something I think we need to keep an eye on moving forward, is if Leonard Williams is a part of this team. And look, if they get good value for him, I'm open to trading him, because I don't think giving him a massive contract would be in the best interest of this organization. But overall, after a crazy weekend, the Jets got their quarterback back. He looks great. And I do think that a lot of Jet fans who were nervous after the first 4 weeks about how this was the end, even some considering tanking, which I wasn't a fan of, you walked away from that game saying, thank God Sam is back, and man, we have a quarterback.